Great. All right. Yep. I'm going to welcome everybody. I'm going to wait a few more minutes because the attendee number keeps jumping up, and I want to make sure everyone has a chance to sign on and hear this fabulous program that you're going to hear from the start. So let's give it just another minute, and I promise we will start then. Okay, I want to welcome everybody today on this crazy Wednesday to the LCL Mass LOMAP webinar for busy lawyers. I have the privilege today of introducing a dear friend whose expertise I respect so highly. Roberta Tepper is a Lawyer Assistance Programs Director for the State Bar of Arizona, and she's been with the State Bar since 2004. She administers Practice 2.0, the State Bar of Arizona's Practice Management Advice Program, and serves as a practice management advisor, focusing on assisting lawyers to achieve success from starting a new practice to winding down and all the steps in between. She also staffs and administers the Bar Member Assistance Program, and she and her team provide administrative support for the bar's 30 sections and young lawyer division, and administrate the online community. Roberta served as bar counsel and then senior bar counsel in the Lawyer Regulation Office from 2004 until she assumed her current position in 2013. She is an active member of the Law Practice Division of the American Bar Association, serves on the Law Practice Division Council, and as the co-vice chair of the 2020 ABA Tech Show Board, which was an absolutely fabulous program this year. She is a frequent author of articles on practice management and wellness for Law Practice Magazine and Law Practice Today. She is the chair of the Practice Management Advisors of North America, is a past president of the Arizona Women Lawyers Association Board of Directors, and as a past chapter president is ex officio member of the AWLA Maricopa Chapter Steering Committee. A graduate of the University of Arizona College of Law, Ms. Tepper is admitted to practice in Arizona and is also an inactive member of the North Carolina and Delaware bars. Before I turn it over to Roberta, I want to let you all know that there will be plenty of time at the end of her presentation for your questions. But what I want you to do is, as soon as you have a question, tap it right into the chat box. Just type it right in there. I will see all of the questions and I will read them back to Roberta at the end of her presentation. So we are set to go, Roberta. Please take it away.
Thank you, Susan, and thanks everybody for tuning in. I know it's just crazy time out there. It's also crazy here in Arizona where we're, struggling with the same things. But notwithstanding the fact that you are watching this on your device, I want to talk about digital detox, which has been a topic that has really resonated with me for quite some time, since my days as bar counsel. And I will tell you that I came to it painfully after checking my email on my phone one last time on a Friday afternoon when I got this horrific email from a respondent, because I was bar counsel, I was prosecuting lawyers, just it was awful, and it made horrible accusations, none of which I could respond to because it was the weekend, but it completely ruined my weekend. And then I woke up fresh and bright on Monday morning and said, this has got to stop. And years later, now we're sort of talking about it as digital detox. So notwithstanding the use of devices today and our current situation where we're really all more dependent, it seems, on our devices. Let's just jump in. We have just an incessant news cycle these days. It's been a long time. We're all used to CNN and MSNBC and all of the other 24/7 news services just bombarding us with information. And then we have all wisely implemented technology in our practices in one way or the other. We're using video conferences, we're using chat, we're using email, we're using text, we're using client portals. Everything is coming through to us in a digital format. And so part of my, proselytizing today is to encourage you to set limits. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go on. So here's the current scenario, and I know I probably don't have to spell it out anymore, but, I'm a lawyer and I have to say it at least a couple of times to make sure everybody sees where I'm coming from. This is from an airport. Imagine that that we are being encouraged by Kaiser Permanente, which, if you're not aware, is a major healthcare system, to power down. You may think that because of what's going on now in particular, it's time to hunker down, it's time to work harder, but really this is the perfect time to think about taking a step away, giving yourself some time, whether it's walking in your yard if you're sheltering in place, or going to a park if that's reasonable, or just appreciating the fact that you're in your home, which is really a place of comfort. It's the perfect time to take time away from a screen. So here's the question that I ask people when we talk about digital detox, which is, are you controlling your devices or are they controlling you? And you may want to just take a second to think about that, because of course your instinctive reaction is, no, of course I'm controlling them, they serve me. But really, do you have the urge to pick up your phone just to see if anybody called or texted? Maybe it was on silent during a teleconference, but now you're checking. It's estimated that 20 to 40% of lawyers have some kind of digital addiction issue, and I use addiction advisedly, but that they are really shackled to their digital devices in a way that is unhealthy. We talk about feeling phantom vibrations. Have you ever done that? Your phone is sitting in your pocket on your desk somewhere, and you think maybe it vibrated, so you check it. I mean, those are the kinds of issues that we're dealing with. And then we have the social part. This is somewhat of an exaggeration, but really not a whole lot. I know that I have been at lunches where people are sitting at the same table, 6 or 7 of them. Everybody's on their device, nobody's speaking. Perhaps as a grumpy, almost baby boomer, it really irritates me more than it does folks who have grown up in the age where screens are more common. But if you've seen this situation either at home or at work or at lunch or socially, you are not alone, because the statistics are fairly scary. Generally speaking, the broad range of statistics are summarized this way. We check our phones an average of 48 times a day. If you think about 16 waking hours, that's at least 2 or 3 times an hour. 2/3 of us check our phones within 15 minutes of getting up in the morning. And I don't mean, how's it going, but I mean scrolling and Twitter and what's going on and what's the news. Half of us sleep with our phones on our nightstands or in the bed. Now, I will admit that I charge my phone on my nightstand, but in the bed seems a little excessive. 80% of us check our work email when we're on vacation. Now, as I talk to a lot of solo and small firm lawyers who say, but Roberta, we are business people. We have to stay in business. We have to stay in touch with our clients. And I'm not going to suggest that you go cold turkey, and I'll get to this again later. But what I am going to suggest is that everybody is entitled to vacation and downtime. We are absolutely important to people's lives, and we deal with people who are in stress, who are in crisis, but we are not 911 operators. We do not have to be available every single second of the day, because if you've been in practice a little bit, you know that what seems urgent to your client isn't in reality as urgent as they think, and there's definitely a way to handle that. Certainly at this point, more than half of our waking lives is spent staring at some kind of screen. And when I talk about digital detox, I'm going to cast a broad net and say that this is also television. This is not just computers and phones and tablets, but includes television. So we have to talk about this scenario, which is right now we are all digitally connected, even not watching this webinar. Zoom and Slack have both reported unprecedented use and growth in the past month or so. In fact, last week Zoom was temporarily overwhelmed by the volume, especially because they offer free accounts. We're using video chat in Teams, Microsoft Teams, in my team to keep in touch because everybody is remote working and we have to stay in touch. So we are absolutely even more dependent and even more encouraged to use our screens at this point. All meetings now are Zoom or video conference. Anyway, you get the hint. So this is for those of you who have kids at home and are teleworking. Seriously, I don't even know how you do it. But this is not uncommon even before this situation happened. But now for sure, we have that attention problem where folks are really just distracted at all times. So what am I talking about? I am talking about putting your phone down. I really do mean it. Put your phone down. I know, how can I watch you if I put my phone down? After this webinar, put your phone down. It is a thing you're going to have to work at. And I'm not saying that we should revert to 2 tin cans and a string for communication. I am not saying that we should abandon technology. Clearly, as a practice management advisor, if you've talked to Susan, if you've talked to the folks at Lawyer Concern for Lawyers, you know that that's just not even a choice anymore. But I am talking about some deliberate use and time away. So this is what we're trying to avoid. I just thought it was, entertaining, but, it sort of does encapsulate some of the problems with being overwhelmed. Studies have reported that folks with digital use issues, let's put it that way, report feeling even more overwhelmed. They get headaches. They get what I commonly call as brain freeze, which is sort of paralysis in terms of what to do next. Panic, anxiety, depression, the use of digital devices, and I know I sound very doom and gloom here, but the use of digital devices can actually increase fear and panic and depression because it can increase isolation. You're so focused on your screen in your world that you forget to interact with other human beings. So here are some of the other negatives. Burning eyes. How many of you at the end of the day feel like your eyes are just sandpaper has been taken to them? People talk about as well losing track of time. Sitting down, I know I do it myself. I sit down, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The next thing I do, I look up, it's 5:45, and I'm 15 minutes late leaving the office. Constantly checking your phone. And here's some of the physical issues. And the one that I really do focus on the most is called text neck. And if you haven't heard that, it's because when we look at our phones or devices, we tilt our head down, as that lovely image demonstrates. And here's the problem. Our physiology was not intended for our head to be carried in that position. And it puts extraordinary stress on our cervical vertebrae because the weight of your head is supposed to rest squarely and firmly on your spine. But when you're looking down, it increases the stress on that, and it has led to numbness in your hands, some nerve issues, compressed nerves can happen. So, that's part of the problem. The other problem is multitasking and the illusion that we as humans can multitask. If you are on your computer, checking your phone, hearing something on a teleconference, you are trying to multitask, and all of the studies tell us that human beings actually cannot multitask. What we do is we switch from task to task to task in serially, but we can't multitask, and the chance of you making a mistake is exponentially greater if you are distracted. So here's my suggestions for how to deal with this. You can impose a self-rezone, but really as lawyers in our day-to-day life, that's probably just not realistic. There are retreats and programs you can attend where you absolutely are required to give up your electronic devices for a weekend or some amount of time, and it's sort of retraining your brain to a new habit or a new focus that you may not have had before. That may not be something you're ready for. And certainly, as I said, you don't have to go cold turkey. You can do this incrementally, and you can do it in small steps. So sorry. But here's the thing. You're going to need a plan. You can say, yes, I'm going to do digital detox. I'm going to give myself an hour a day with no devices, and that's great. But particularly if you're in private practice, and particularly if you're a solo or in a small firm, you're going to need a plan. You're going to need to really figure out when the best time for you to be out of reach is going to be. Sorry, I promise it's not the coronavirus. So think about it. You're going to have to think about your day and your practice because what we're talking about is not a one-time thing. We're not talking about a one-week juice cleanse. We are talking about a way to change your life on a long-term basis and scheduling device-free breaks. There's a method called the Pomodoro method where you work for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break, work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, and then once an hour you take a longer break. And people like that for time management and task management, but that may not work for you. So think about when it is that you can take a break. Maybe if you don't use your phone on your drive home. Maybe if you take a 15, 20-minute break at lunchtime where you meditate, or when you eat, or whether you go to lunch with a friend and you put down your phone. All of those are possible. If you're worried about your client's ability to reach you, if you're trying to detox during your working day, there are a lot of options for you. You can think about a virtual receptionist if your finances permit you to hire that kind of service. But if they don't, that's fine as well. You can just turn on your out of office or have an auto reply on your emails that say, thank you for emailing. I only check my emails twice a day at 9 a.m. and at 2 p.m. If this is an emergency, please call my office. Something like that. So you have to make a plan, and you have to communicate your plan to your clients and to other people. Tell them when you will be unavailable or how long it may take you to respond to their email, and that's a good possibility. You can use other things, and I'm going to hit on some of the things your devices can do for you. You can turn your phone to grayscale. You can turn off your push notifications. Facebook even has a new dark mode in their new beta test, which is kind of nice. If you're able to set a do not disturb on your phone, then think about whether you want to do that. Here are some suggestions you can do to make it worthwhile for you to have engaged in this planning and analysis and really what is going to be the discipline of building a new habit for you. Read a real book with real pages. It was surprising to me when I put down my Nook and picked up a real book, how much I love books. Maybe that's just me. Go outside. Even now, if you're sheltering in place, you can go outside. Do a jigsaw puzzle. We have a jigsaw puzzle set up in the break room of our office, and folks get to take a little 15-minute break and do a jigsaw puzzle. Of course, we're not doing that now because it's hard to socially distance when you're doing that. Go to a movie with your phone off, not on vibrate, but go outside and enjoy. If you're going on vacation, make a plan for how often and when you're going to check your emails, and then discipline yourself to triage them. If it's truly not an emergency and it's something that can wait till you get back, send that auto reply, I'm on vacation, I'll be back, or whatever it is you decide to communicate. See if you can have a friend cover for you just on those very urgent things that maybe just need one touch that someone else can easily do and your clients will be grateful for, and you can return the favor. There's, of course, yet again, irony of talking about digital detox and then urging you to use your devices to do that. But my analytics from Office 365 will automatically look at how you use your email and your Office 365 account, and then send you a report. This is my report for last month. I had 74% of my time either blocked out or empty, and then I had 26% of my workday where I had meetings or other things settled. You can use some apps in the App Store that are available for iPhone and Android, like Moment, which keeps track of your online time. You can use, again, another app called Quality Time, where it will tell you how much time you spent on each of your devices. Same thing for screen time on Apple devices. And here's just a suggestion. If you really can't trust yourself to put down your phone during dinner, or maybe have a phone-free family dinner or a device-free family dinner, this is an actual device available to you on Amazon. It costs under $10. It's the mobile phone gel cell. It holds up to 6 phones or tablets, and that lock is supposed to be tamper-proof. So I know this is kind of quick, but I would encourage you to just do one thing. Just start by doing one thing, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's designating 15 minutes during the day when you would normally be on a device and you're not going to be. Just go ahead and do that. And good luck. It's not easy, but it's definitely doable, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Roberta, thank you so much. This was such a fantastic presentation. I was listening, and I have to say, I found myself sitting up straighter. My phone was way to the side. You had a great impact on me. Okay, so we have a couple of questions here. One is about science. So somebody has recognized that she has a problem not checking her phone compulsively if it's within her reach. But if it's away or in another room where it's not kind of that in that easy reach, she doesn't seem to have such a hard time resisting, and wondered if you're aware of any science behind that.
Well, I would say, you know, I'm a lawyer, not a scientist. But yeah, I mean, you know, part of it is just habit. And especially because in the early days of cell phones, you know, you had to pay extra for your phone to vibrate, so it wasn't a problem. But now it vibrates and it blinks and it flashes. It's that out of sight, out of mind. I think we all do it in different ways in our lives. I know my mom says she can avoid eating cookies if she doesn't have it in the house because she won't go out and buy one. But if it's in the house, she'll do it. And I think that's part of the same thing. And identifying that particular behavior in yourself and creating a plan that, maybe for that person, locking the cell phone away in a drawer for an hour a day is the way to build that new habit, because it only takes about 3 weeks of every day to build a new habit. So yeah, I can't talk to the brain science about that, but I'm sure there's a neural pathway that is built. When you do any repetitive behavior, it gets ingrained. And so to the extent you can break your habit of picking it up all the time, I know now with the coronavirus, I've never been more aware of how many times I touch my face during the day. And just being aware that you have that tendency can sometimes be the key to building a routine that avoids it.
One thought that just came to mind, when it comes to forming new habits, you might want to take a look at Gretchen Rubin, who's written on that. She has a book called Better Than Before. That might give some science behind it. I don't know, but I know that's kind of her area, habits. There's another comment that leads me to a question. She says her Fitbit tells her when it's time to wind down and go to bed. And the question that makes me think about relates to everything you were saying on planning. This idea of having a plan ahead of time, having an intention ahead of time of what you're going to do, as opposed to just, what you're not going to do. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about planning and maybe any basic tips that you have.
Sure. The Fitbit's a great, the Fitbit is a double-edged sword, I will say. I know that I had, for a while, was wearing one, and although it was good because it did tell me when it was time to wind down, so I knew it was time to put away my screen, and I'll talk about that in a second, but it also put a little tension on me. It's like, go walk. You have to do 250 steps, and I was in the middle of something, and it made me tense. But yeah, so planning habits are good, and one of the things you can do that the Fitbit leads me to is detach from your digital devices about an hour before bedtime, because one of the things science does tell us is the light from your device actually messes with your circadian rhythm. And so even though 10 o'clock at night may be the time that you would normally be winding down, if you're on a device, and that's a tablet, a Nook, a phone, anything, that light is going to actually tell your brain that it's still time to wake up. So one of the planning things could be to set that wind down time, to set a time in the morning when, depending on your personal life, you don't pick up the phone right away. Maybe you build a new habit of waking up and having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a water or going for a walk or something like that. In terms of your practice, planning is very individual. So look at your day-to-day practice and what you do and how you schedule work, because it is possible to block out periods of time when you don't take calls, let's say, maybe from noon to 1. I know my doctor, her office is closed to business from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and she's a doctor and she saves lives. So if she can do it, we all can do it. And so think about that, and you have to do it a little bit in advance. Don't think you're going to do it on the fly, because it will cause you stress to look at your day and say, what can I rearrange? But if you say, next week or starting next month, I'm going to give myself a break from this time to this time, or I will just turn off notifications. I know in preparation for this, I turned off my email notifications because I didn't want my email notifications to pop up. The other thing email notifications do is say, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. So turn off your notifications. Make yourself a habit of just checking your email twice a day. And maybe for your particular practice that won't work. Maybe once a day is possible. Maybe you have to build in 3 times a day. But it takes some analysis and looking at your calendar and looking at the pacing of your practice and where you have to be at what times to give yourself that ability to plan. And it is possible that your practice is so high volume and so day to day that you have to do it on your drive home. Maybe your drive home is device free. Maybe your dinners are device free. It really does depend on the individual. I'm sure that the folks at LCL would be happy, Susan included, to work through that with you on a more individual basis.
Roberta, I have to thank you once again. This was fantastic. Oh, we got another question that just popped up. Sorry.
Okay.
Let me just read it to you. It seems that we're talking about detoxifying from digital devices to improve our well-being and health as opposed to productivity. Having said that, have you found that overuse of digital devices causes more problems with productivity or other aspects of people's lives? And are there types of apps and programs or particular distractions that tend to cause more issues than others?
Well, let me take the first part first, which is it's my personal belief that being overexposed, let's put it that way, digitally at all times does lead to reduced productivity, because when you're tired and when you're overwhelmed, you do not do your best work. And so if you're constantly getting input, constantly bombarded with input, at some point, I refer to it as my brain is just tired. At some point, you're going to lose productivity because you've been sort of incessantly exposed or incessantly busy and you haven't had that downtime. All of the science in terms of productivity says that taking breaks is essential to being productive. And it may seem counterintuitive that stopping work will actually make you more productive, but actually all the science does support that. In terms of apps and programs, you know, the grayscale is really based on science in that bright colors, things that move are more engaging. That's why, you know, lights and sounds are more engaging. That's why slot machines in Las Vegas, they ding and they chime and they have things that roll around and it's very exciting. And that gets your brain stimulated and you want more and more of it. And so going to grayscale on your devices is a really good, and maybe you just do that an hour before bed or 2 hours before bed to help wind down. You know, there are a lot of apps that can actually increase your well-being. You know, Headspace is probably one of the better known ones. There's one called Forest where you build trees, and to the extent that you're not looking at any other apps on your phone, your tree grows and it stops growing when you are distracted and you go to other apps. And so there is sort of the digital prescription for digital detox, which again, ironic. But there are those, if you know, in our office, we started a weekly 15-minute meditation. Everybody comes in, nobody has their phone out. We sit in a room, we have somebody facilitate that. It's very refreshing. Susan mentioned feeling her, you know, sitting up straighter. It's very refreshing. So those are the kind of things you might want to build into your day to help that. Hope I answered that question.
Yeah, great answer. We have one more comment and I just want to read it to you because it's really very lovely. She writes, "Thank you so much," with an exclamation point. "You have confirmed what I had realized this past week. During this crisis, I have been on virtual meetings for boards I sit on, calming panicked clients, dealing with telephone calls, home office cell, monitoring text messages, checking for emails, Facebook messages, reading the newspapers all online, 4 per day, and watching the national news and making sure I watch Stephen Colbert." Okay, that's mental. It says, "plus checking in with family as we are all apart right now. But when I realized that I had been trying to get outside during some really beautiful weather and it was 4 days, I drew my line in the sand, and your advice has reinforced my decision. I tried mightily to avoid getting hooked on all of the technology and have fought it, but we can't avoid it. It's a slow slide at this age, but it happens. I'm getting back to basics, I miss snail mail. I just wanted to say, I wanted to share that. It was just such a lovely sentiment and story. And I want to thank you again, Roberta. This was absolutely fantastic. I would like to let everybody know that this program has been recorded. It will be up on our website as soon as possible. As you can imagine, we're a little bit slower right now because there's just so much going on, but we promise it will be up as soon as possible, and with a PDF of the slides. If Roberta, you'll just send that to us, we can post the PDF.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, and thank you again. I want to remind everyone we're going to continue with a theme of wellness on April 1st. That's a week from today at noon. Helen Bucklemetz is going to talk a little bit more about wellness and mindfulness for us. So I hope you'll join in next week. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and a terrific week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Susan.
Thank you, Roberta. I'm going to circle back with you. I'll just give you a call.
Okay.